Today we'll be reading 1 Kings chapter 20 to 21. Ben-Hadad attacked Samaria. Now Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, mustered and his entire army, accompanied by 32 kings, with their horses and chariots. He went up and by guested Samaria and attacked it. He sent messages to the city to what? He sent messages into the city to Ahab, king of Israel, saying, this is what Ben-Hadad says. Your silver and gold are mine, and the best of your wives and children are mine. The king of Israel answered, just as you said, my lord, the king, and I will be. And what? The king of Israel answered, as you say to my lord, the king, and I have, and I all I have is yours. The messengers came again and said, Is this what Ben-Hadad said? I sent to demand your silver and gold, your wives and your children. But about the time tomorrow, I am going to send my officials to search your place, and the house of your officials. They will be seized, everything you value, and carry it away. The king of Israel summoned all elders and the land and said to them, see how the man is looking for trouble. When he sent for my wives and children, my silver and my gold, I did not refuse him. The elders and the peoples all answered, don't listen to him or agree to his demands. So he replied to Ben-Hadad's messengers, I tell you, my lord, tell my lord the king, your servant will do all you demand for the first time. The first time. But this demand cannot be met. They left and took the answer back to Ben-Hadad. Ben-Hadad sent another message to Abba. May the gods deal with me, be it so severely. Enough dust remains in Samaria to give each of my men a handful. The king of Israel answered, tell him, one who puts on this armor should not boast like one who takes it off. Ben-Hadad heard this message while he and the kings were drinking in their tents, and ordered the men, prepare to attack. So they prepared to attack on the city. Bro is drunk. Stupid. Abba defeats Ben-Hadad. Meanwhile, the prophet came to Abba, king of Israel, and announced, this is what the Lord says. Do you see this vast army? I will give it to you in your hand today. And then you will know that I am the Lord. But who did this? Asked Abba. The prophet replied, this is what the Lord says. The junior officers under professional commanders will do it. And who will start the battle? He asked. The prophet answered, you will. So Abba summoned the 332 junior officers under the provincial commanders. Then he assembled the rest of the Israelites, 7,000 in all. Then set out at noon, while Ben-Hadad and the kings allied were in the tent getting drunk. The junior officers under the professional commanders went on foot. Now Ben-Hadad had dispatched scouts who reported men are advancing from Samaria. He said, if I have to come out for peace, take them alive. But if I had to come out for war, take them alive. The junior officers, under the provisional commanders, marched out of the city with the army behind them, and each struck one opponent down with his opponent. At that, the Amarians fled, with the Israelites in pursuit. But Ben-Hadad, the king of Ahab, escaped on his horseback with some of his horsemen. Of the king of Israel advanced and overpowered the horses and chariots and inflicted heavy losses on the armament. Afterwards, the prophet came to the king of Israel and said, strengthen your position and see what must be done. Why am I so loud? And see what's supposed to be done. Because the next spring, the king of Ahab will attack you again. Meanwhile, the officers of the king of it's Aram. I'm so stupid. The king of Aram will attack you again. Meanwhile, the officials of Aram advise him, their gods are gods of the hills. That is why they are so strong for us. We must fight them on the plains. Surely they will be stronger. Surely we be stronger than they than they than they. For this, remove all the kings from their commanders and replace them with other officers. You must also raise an army like the one when you lost. Oh, horse for a horse, a chariot for a chariot, so we can fight Israel on the plains. Surely we will be stronger than they are. He with agreed with them and acted ignorantly. Then the next spring, Ben-Hadad mustered the Amorites and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. When the Israelites were also mustered and given provisions, they marched out to meet them. The Israelites had not been do that. Israelites camped opposite them, two small flocks of goats, while the Amorites covered the countryside. The man of God came up to them and told them, the king of Israel, this is what the Lord says. Because the Amorites think the Lord is a God of the hills and not the God of the valleys, I will deliver this vast army to your hand, and you will know that I am the Lord. For 7 days they camped opposite of each other. On the seventh day, the battle was joined. The Israelites inflicted 100,000 casualties on the Amorites' foot soldiers. In one day, the rest of them in one day. The rest of them escaped to the city of Aphek, where the wall collapsed on 27,000 of them, and Ben-Hadad fled to the city and hid in a room. His officials said to him, look, we have heard that the king of Israel are merciful. Let's go to the king of Israel with a sackcloth around the waist and ropes around their heads. Perhaps he will spare out your life. Wearing sackcloth around his waist and ropes around his head, he went to the king of Israel and said, your servant Ben-Hadad says, please let me live. Ah. And the king, is he still alive? He is my brother. The men took him. The men took. The men took this as a good sign and were quick to pick him up with wood. Yes, your brother Ben-Hadad. They said, go to him. And when Ben-Hadad king got out Abba, now it's Abba, came said to him, "Come up into his chariot. I return the cities my father took from you, from your brothers, your fathers. Ben-Hadad you may set up your own market areas and Damascus, because my father did in Samaria." Abba said, "On the basis of a treaty, I will set you free." So he made a treaty with him and let him go. Prophet and commandments. Abba. A prophet commands Abba. By the word of the Lord, one of the companies of the prophets said to the competition, "Strike me with your weapon." But he refused. So the prophet said, "Because you have not obeyed the Lord, as soon as you leave me, a lion will kill you." Then after the man went away, and the lion found them and killed him. The prophet of the other man said, "Strike me, please." So the man struck him and wounded him. The prophet went and stood by the road for the king and disguised himself with a head bent over his eyes. As the king passed by, the prophet called out, "Your servant went into a thick battle, and some came out with this, and someone came out to me with a captive, and said, 'Guard this man. If he is missing, it will be with your life, for his life, or you must pay a talent of silver.' While the servant was busy here and there, the man disappeared. 'That is your sentence,' the king of Israel said. 'You pronounce yourself.' Then the prophet removed the headband on his eyes, and the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. He said to the king, 'This is what the Lord says. You have set a man. You have set a man. You have set free a man, and had determined should die. Therefore it is your life, for his life, for people of his people, sullen and angry.' The king of Israel went to the palace of Samaria, which doesn't. Oh, what? Sullen and angry. The king of Israel went to the palace of Samaria. And we're done with the story, but now I have your meaning. Where I get ahead. I'm very tired. Start this. 1 Kings chapter 20, study notes. With 2 evil and 2 good kings, up on a point on the southern kingdom, Judah waved between godly and ungodly living. But the northern kingdom, Israel, had 8 evil kings in succession to punish both kingdoms and living their own way instead of following God. God allowed other nations to gain strength and become their enemies. Three main enemies threatened Israel and Judah during the time. And Judah during the there's no the. Enemies threatened Israel and Judah during the next 2 centuries: Aram, Assyria, and Babylon. Aram was the first to rise to power, presented an immediate threat to Abba and Israel. God defeated Aramean army for Abba, so that Abba would know that his great no so that Abba would know that God alone is the Lord, despite the great victory, and wanted to follow the plans. Abba continued to live with without God. Evidence of God's greatness surrounds us, but like Abba, we can choose to ignore it and go our own way. But when we do, as with this evil king of Israel, distracted will strike. Open your eyes to to the evidence, then victories that God is winning for you. Then dedicate yourself to Him. Since the days of Joshua, Israel's soldiers had reputation for being superior fighters in the hills, but ineffective in the open plains, the valleys, just because they did not use chariots in battle. Horse-drawn chariots, useless in hill terrain and dense forests, could easily run down great numbers of foot soldiers on the plain. What Ben-Hadad officers did not understand was God, not chariots made the difference in the battle. Sasklock was a course was a chorus cloth usually made from goat's hair and was worn as a symbol of mourning for the dead or natural disaster. Wearing robes around the head might be a symbol of putting oneself and others' disposal. In other words, Abba could have hung him then if he wished. Wearing robes around the head therefore showed submission. The prophet needed a wound so he could look like an injured soldier and would effectively deliver his prophecy to Abba. The first man was killed by a lion because he refused to obey the Lord's instructions throughout the prophet. It is difficult to explain why Abba let Ben-Hadad go, especially after all the trouble of the armament caused him. What is that armament army to prove to Abba and Aram that he was alone was God. He alone was God. What? But Abba failed to then destroy the king and his greatest army. That Hadad was under God's judgment to die, and Abba had no authority to let him live. For this, God told Abba that he must now die instead. The prophet message soon came true when Abba was killed on the battlefield. And it's good, and bye. See you next time.